Hey, I'm Chloe, 24 years old. My man's name is Timothy, also 24. We've been together since college, but only tied the knot a few months back. We live in the US. When I first met him, I just knew he was the one I wanted to be with forever. He's charming, handsome, and smart, everything I could ask for in a dream guy. We dated for a bit before he popped the question a few months ago, and it was amazing. We went on a fantastic honeymoon together. Yo, I just came back a few months ago like I mentioned before. I've always been a prankster and jokester, but Timothy has always been the serious one. I mean, I already said Timothy was super serious, so I didn't really think much of it. I knew everyone has their own personality, you know. His seriousness just showed he was a determined dude who always achieved his goals. He had a great career that he really worked for, and he was making bank. His parents even hooked us up with a house as a gift. I really looked up to Timothy's dedication and drive. He was the kind of guy who set goals and went after them no matter what obstacles came his way. That was one of the things that attracted me to him in the first place. He carried himself with so much confidence and purpose. And like I mentioned before, Timothy's job allowed me to be a bit of a stay-at-home wife. I wouldn't say I fit that exact description since I did work part-time at an art gallery. But having that job gave me the flexibility and freedom that I really appreciated. Man, juggling work and personal life was actually pretty great. Even though the pay wasn't amazing, it covered the basics. But Timothy's job was raking in the cash. I can't shake the memory of that crazy night that just happened yesterday. It was a regular Friday and Timothy, who's always swamped with work, was miraculously free for the weekend. So we kicked things off by hitting up a house party thrown by some mutual friends. The vibe at the party was lit, man. We were all laughing, playing games, and drinking plenty of drinks. We were having a blast catching up and socializing. Then, the conversation shifted to this old friend of ours who recently cheated on her husband and got divorced. We had already kicked her out of our group because of her shady behavior, so we found the whole situation kind of funny. One of my buddies even joked about how forgiving her husband would be if she had cheated on him. I was joking around saying that if I had been with our friend, my husband would have never found out. Then my husband joked back saying he would have known if I cheated. I replied with another joke about how he wouldn't have, because I actually did cheat on him and he never found out. To my surprise, everyone, including my husband, found it funny and saw it as a light-hearted joke. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake this weird feeling about my husband. His attitude suddenly changed. We went from laughing and chatting to him being all serious and distant. Even though I was a bit drunk, I could tell something was wrong. Usually he's good at hiding how he feels, especially around other people. But that night he was like a mystery, hardly talking to me, and when he did, it was hard to get a response out of him. I kept asking if he was okay, but he either ignored me or snapped back with short answers. By the time we left the party and went home, there was a tense atmosphere between us. I tried one last time to get through to him. I went to see how he was doing and he just said he was fine, but it was obvious he wasn't. Something was definitely bothering him, but he wasn't ready to talk about it yet. After my husband acted cold at the party, I figured I'd give him some space to deal with whatever was bothering him. I knew from past experience that pushing him to talk when he wasn't ready would only make things worse. So, I focused on getting us home and settled in for the night. I made dinner hoping it would help. So, I thought making his favorite meal would cheer him up, but my husband hardly even ate it. It was pretty obvious he had something big on his mind. Eventually, he brought it up and straight up asked me if I had cheated on him. I was totally blindsided by the question because it was just a joke at the party, you know. But I could see why he was suspicious, considering my past screw-up in college when we first started dating. I messed up back then because I didn't think we were that serious yet, since we had just started seeing each other. Man, dating was rough for us. He was really into me, but I messed up and hurt his feelings. I owned up to my mistake, apologized, and promised not to do it again. Plus, he had been cheated on in the past by his exes, so when I made a joke about cheating, it hit a nerve. Poor guy has been hurt too many times before. So basically, my husband has this deep-rooted fear or something that makes him not trust things that are supposed to be harmless fun. When he asked me about a joke I made, I assured him that I hadn't cheated on him. I explained that it was just a joke and everyone at the party found it funny, but he wasn't buying it. He said it didn't seem like a joke to him and he was taking it seriously. I stuck to my guns and told him that I hadn't cheated on him since we got together, stressing how crucial trust is in our relationship. I was trying to save our marriage and practically begged him to trust me, but no matter what I said, his doubts were always there. Then he asked to see my phone, which really pissed me off. I felt angry and betrayed, like he didn't trust me at all. Asking to check my phone felt like he was prying into my personal life and I couldn't bring myself to hand it over. It felt weird, like he was crossing a line. I was about to explode. I had stood up from my seat and was clutching my phone tightly. I was thinking about it and I must have seemed hella sketchy the whole time. Dude stayed chill, maybe too chill for such a crazy situation. But like I said, he's always been weirdly calm. Despite his cool attitude, I stood my ground and said no to his request. He kept pushing, but I kept saying no. Then he just brushed it off and said everything was fine. Later when I tried to bring it up, he acted like it was no big deal. The next morning, I woke up still shook from the night before, feeling mad and disappointed. Man, I was all kinds of messed up inside, like a freaking hurricane. It was Saturday, and we had made plans to hang out together because my husband hardly ever gets weekends off. But after all the drama and tension from last night, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to enjoy it. I tried to bring up our plans for the day, hoping against hope that we could sort things out. And then, out of nowhere, my husband dropped a bomb on me. He wanted a divorce. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was totally blindsided. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Man, he was up all night stressing out, couldn't chill. His trust issues were off the charts. He thought my joke about cheating was actually true. It hurt like hell. I cried my eyes out because I was so shocked and hurt by what he said. I was expecting a harmless joke, but instead he looked at me with sadness and guilt that really hurt. He admitted that the joke had been bothering him all night, making him doubt himself and feel insecure. It was like a heavy burden he couldn't handle anymore. Despite my begging and trying to show him I was loyal, he wanted a divorce. I was shocked and still am. I asked him to reconsider and give us another chance, but he seemed stubborn. I even suggested he check I tried calling him, but he said no. I suggested he put an air tag on me, but he said no again. No matter how much I promised to change or provide answers, he stuck to his decision. As a last resort, I suggested we take a day off to clear our heads and think things over. Maybe some time alone would help us see things more clearly. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't be enough to fix the rift between us. So here I am, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet. Honestly, I don't know what the heck I should be doing. Any help would be awesome cause I really need it. We were so excited yesterday. If I had known this was gonna happen I wouldn't have made that joke and we would have completely missed the house party. But like my mom always said, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. Like I said before, any advice would be much appreciated. Thanks. Update. Hey y'all, it's me again. It's been a week and I'm here to fill you in on what's been going on. First and foremost, I just want to say thanks to everyone who gave me advice and support after my last AR article. It's been a crazy ride for sure. I posted it to let off some steam and get some good advice, which I did, but I never thought I'd actually come back to update it. Truth is, this account is just a throwaway and I wasn't planning on using it again. But I've been getting a ton of DMs on it and the article has been getting a lot of attention, so I guess I'll stick around for now. Just wanted to give you all a quick update on that. I've been getting a lot of comments asking if I cheated, but let me set the record straight. I only cheated once in college and I owned up to it. So please stop asking me that. And don't go around saying I cheated, because I didn't. Some of you even think my husband wants a divorce because he found out I cheated. And there are also accusations that I'm hiding things to make myself look good, but that's not true. Okay, so here's the deal, there's more to the story, but I swear I'm not keeping anything from you. I wish I could spill all the details, but honestly, this is just how it went down. What exactly do you want to know? Anyways, after my husband dropped the bomb that he wanted a divorce, we had a long, heartfelt chat. I poured my heart out, trying to convince him that we could work things out, but he was set on ending things. It left me feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. I suggested therapy for both of us, thinking it could help us out, especially considering the situation. He was all stressed out and our relationship was rocky. He admitted that therapy was needed, but he wanted a divorce instead. It was tough to accept that he was set on ending our marriage. Some of you recommended couples counseling, so I mentioned it to him. He said he'd consider it, but he was still set on divorce. Feeling desperate, I reached out to his mom hoping she could knock some sense into him. Unfortunately, she just seemed to agree with him. So, she basically said if he wants a divorce, it might be a good idea. I was so mad, I ended up slamming the phone down on her. I couldn't believe she wasn't being supportive or understanding. It was all just a bunch of nonsense. We were happy together just a few days ago, so what's her deal saying I should just let him go? I hung up on her for real. I know she's gonna run and tell my husband I was rude, but I don't give a damn. She's crazy, to be honest. On the bright side, I called my folks were super on board with the whole therapy thing. They really stressed how important it was for us to get help and they pushed my partner to give it a shot. After a lot of back and forth, we agreed that if therapy didn't fix things, we'd call it quits. I also realized that I might need some therapy too to get me through this tough time. Ever since we talked about splitting up, it's been a rough road. But I managed to schedule a therapy session for us in just 2 weeks, so now we just gotta wait and see how it goes. I've been doing my best to stay positive. I've been trying my best to be super nice and giving to my partner, but it seems like he's mentally checked out of our relationship. His kindness towards me feels more like how buddies treat each other, and it's clear he's guarding his heart from getting hurt again. The worst part is the lack of closeness between us. We still share a bed, but there's no physical connection anymore. Whenever I try to get things going, he shuts down and says he's not feeling it. It's a harsh reality check. Man, it's crazy how much our relationship has changed and how we've drifted apart so quickly. I get why he's trying to protect himself emotionally, especially after all that's gone down. But it's really painful to feel this distance between us, to see him pull away when I try to get close. I'm hopeful that therapy will help us deal with these problems and get back on track, but at the moment it feels like we're just drifting further apart every day. Despite all the mean comments, some of you actually understood. Hey guys, just wanted to give you a quick update on what's been going on. It's been about 3 months since everything went down, and I should have given you an update sooner, but it's been tough. I want to thank you all for the support and messages I've received during this time. So, let's jump into it. We've been going to therapy, both individually and as a couple. It's been a busy time for us, but we're working through it together. My husband's schedule was so jam-packed, it was hard to squeeze everything in. But we made it work. It was obvious that he had mentally checked out of our relationship. His therapist said he was doing well in his personal therapy sessions and was improving. But when it came to couples counseling, he didn't seem fully invested. Despite my suspicions, I kept snooping through his phone until I finally had enough and walked out. I even checked his laptop and everything else. I even went as far as looking at our security cameras, but there was no evidence of anything suspicious. I looked into it and found no proof of him cheating. He's not that type and he's always been against cheating. But there was still this emotional distance between us, so we decided to go our separate ways as we had talked about before. Now I'm just waiting to be officially served the papers. Moving out was tough. The house was in my husband's name and was a gift from his parents, so I had to rely on my parents to help me pack up and leave. Going back to my parents' house after thinking I had moved on is really tough. Man, I'm going through some serious trauma right now. I really miss my husband and I regret all the stuff that got us to this point, especially that crazy home party incident. Lately, I've been feeling super down and I can't stop crying because I miss him so much. I'm trying my best to move on, but it's tough. What hurts even more is seeing him all happy on social media. I can't help but wonder if my constant nagging and complaining pushed him away. I'll admit, I can be a bit of a complainer. As I scroll through his posts, I can't help but think he's better off without me bugging him. It's rough. Man, I can't shake this sick feeling in my stomach. I keep thinking, did I push him away by always complaining about little things? Was I just too much for him to deal with? But then I gotta remember, social media doesn't show the whole picture. It's just the best parts. Maybe he's just pretending to be happy to hide how much he's hurting inside. Maybe he's just trying to keep busy to deal with the breakup. I keep doubting myself, wondering if I'm the reason everything's falling apart. Relationships are tough, man. Everyone's got their flaws. Maybe we both messed up in this, but I'm trying to move on and find peace. I hold on to memories hoping the pain will go away someday. Haha, I sound like a poet now. For now, I'm just taking it day by day, trying to handle my emotions and figure out how to live without him. I'm updating Reddit, it feels good to be back. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their support and love since my last post. It's been so much, but in a good way. Hey y'all, I know there have been some haters and doubters out there who think I got what was coming to me, but their negativity ain't got nothing on the love and support I've been getting. The messages and check-ins from y'all mean a lot to me. It's been 4 months since I last updated y'all, and I feel like I owe you an update on what's been happening. A lot of you suggested self-care activities and hobbies to help me deal with the discomfort, and I gotta say, thank you for those suggestions. They've really been a big help. You know, going through this tough time, I'm just glad no one's pointing fingers at my ex or me. Honestly, neither of us is solely responsible for the mess our marriage ended up in. We both had a part to play, even if we didn't realize it at the time. It's kinda comforting to finally realize that, amidst all the craziness. As for the legal stuff, we had to go through court hearings, but thankfully they were pretty low-key since our marriage was short-lived. I didn't walk away with a huge settlement, but at least I got a decent amount of support. My ex was cool with me helping out financially, which I appreciate because it shows respect and understanding, no matter what. What caught me off guard was how quickly our marriage ended, less than a year. But on the bright side, my ex and I are getting along well now. We're almost like buddies, and maybe there's hope for something good in the future. It's a small ray of hope that I'm holding onto as I keep moving forward. Stay tuned, it's great to be back after such a long time. After being gone for about a year and a few months, I logged back into this account and it's kinda cool to see that there are still people asking for updates. Even though nothing major has happened in my life, I feel like I should give you all an update. Honestly, I've missed sharing my journey with you guys. So, first things first, I no longer live with my parents. I've moved into an apartment and now have a roommate. We weren't really close friends before, but she's turned out to be pretty nice and understanding, which I'm grateful for. Living with roommates can be tough, but I got lucky with her. Especially after hearing some horror stories about terrible housemates. I had to take on a second job to make more money on top of my main job. Like I said before, the pay wasn't great. I'm hoping to find a better job soon, one that will let me quit my second job and focus on a more stable career. My ex and I are still really close, he's been super sweet and supportive. We recently had a really deep chat and he mentioned, "Yo, my ex realizing he lost me was like a wake-up call for him to find himself again." Those comments hit me hard, especially since they're lyrics from Selena Gomez's song LOL. It just shows that going through tough times can help us grow and discover ourselves. Both my ex and I are single now and we're taking this time to focus on ourselves and our own journeys. Shout out to everyone here for all the support and love. Your words really helped me get through some rough patches, and I'm grateful for that. Yo, check it out, here's the deal. I'm 26, my girl Shaw is 24, my old man Clark is 52, and my mom Dee is 50. This whole thing is new, only been happening for a week, so bear with me if I get a bit emotional talking about it. Shaw and I actually met back in her first year of college. We crossed paths at a frat party, she was in a sorority and my frat was throwing the shindig. We had some mutual friends, so it was easy for us to strike up a convo. But it wasn't until later on that things really took off. Man, it's crazy to think that we both grew up so close to each other. When we went back home, I would always give her a ride and it only added like 30 minutes to our trip, so it was no big deal. We spent so much time together on campus and outside of school, our friendship turned into something more. We both have tight-knit families, so when we told them about us, they were all on board. Our families instantly clicked and our love just kept getting stronger. When we met, I only had 2 years left on my degree, while she... Hey, so I just finished school and headed back home about 3 hours away. Got a sweet job offer with good pay. Meanwhile, she was still studying so I'd visit her whenever I could. Long distance was tough with her schoolwork getting more intense, but we made it work. She was all about studying law, so her head was always in the books. I really looked up to her because she was so motivated. That's why I loved her. I had everything all figured out. I knew she was the one for me deep down in my gut. I planned to save up enough money to buy a house in the city. I knew she still had a lot of school left before she could become a lawyer, so I was ready to make the sacrifice of moving back to the city and maybe find a job there because I was making good money. After she finished her degree, she moved in with me in an apartment I was renting in my hometown until she decided to go to law school and mentioned she wanted to take a break before starting again. I thought it was a good idea because it would give us time to find a place in the city to start our life together. And now, for the part you've all been waiting for, looking back, I realized there were many things I ignored and brushed off as my dad just trying to accept my ex-girlfriend into our family. Like his regular phone calls to her that they would brush off as just talking about upcoming family events. She got a call while in the so I was in the shower when I heard my dad. He sounded surprised and kinda pissed when he found out it was me. He said he needed to talk to Shaw about something she needed help with. I asked him what it was, and he said it was something in the apartment that she wanted me to do but I hadn't done yet. I chuckled and said okay. I feel like I might have missed something because I don't remember her asking me to fix anything. Usually, I'm pretty good at that stuff. He hinted that he might have been mistaken. Man, I totally messed up and we stopped talking after a minute. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't pick up on the signs earlier. It all went down on a regular day. She usually made us breakfast before I headed out to work. She gave me a kiss goodbye and wished me a good day, just like she always did. But on my way to work, I suddenly remembered some important documents I forgot for a 2 p.m. meeting. I had a meeting, but I blew it off and decided to go home for lunch to grab something. Throughout the day, she texted me boring stuff like what we should have for dinner and that she did the laundry. She even suggested we check out the new bakery in town for some fancy cookies. When lunchtime rolled around, I didn't bother telling her I was heading home because I knew it would be a quick trip. Plus, she usually used that time to study for the LSAT. So, I left work without saying anything and drove home, pulling into our building's parking lot. I saw a truck that kinda resembled my dad's in the visitor parking, but I didn't pay it much mind. I just went inside, figuring he had sorted things out and taken care of what I missed. I also thought that Shaw and my dad were probably chatting about it nonstop. She wasn't nagging me, it's just that I was too preoccupied or it was the last time she trusted me to do anything around the house. It didn't sit right with me that part of it was emasculating you. I had to ask my dad for help, but when I opened the door, I was in for a shock. There was a trail of clothes leading to our bedroom, my dad's work boots by the front door, his pants all over the place, and some lady's black bra and pink G-string. Then I heard moaning, which is definitely not something you want to hear from your own dad. But I knew it was him right away. I felt sick to my stomach, but for some reason, I had to see it with my own eyes. So, I whipped out my phone and started recording, 'cause I knew no one would believe me. Just crazy. It was like I was on autopilot. I grabbed all the clothes off the floor with one hand and my phone in the other. I walked down the hallway recording as I went, and when I got to our bedroom, the door was open. I stood there for about a minute before throwing their clothes at them. They were in the middle of a fight, and when they noticed me, they both jumped and looked at me. I saw my dad, but naked except for his socks, getting it on with my girlfriend, the love of my life. It was just too much for me to handle in that moment. When my dad saw I was recording, he freaked out. He was trying to hide and told me to stop. She started throwing pillows at me. He tried to grab my phone but I pushed him away and he fell against the dresser and then to the floor. Shaw gasped in shock. I then pointed my camera at him and was like, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Then my parents started giving me a bunch of harsh comments. My dad rushed over after trying to put his clothes back on. I told them I just needed to grab some work stuff and then I'd be back after work. I told her to leave for her own good in the future. Then I said, "Who knows what will happen in the future?" I mumbled something about how she messed up my life and made me look stupid. I asked if either of them were still around when I came back. I would send this video to everyone they know. I then stopped recording, put my phone in my pocket, and told him he was dead to me. I said I couldn't wait to tell Mom. Then he got up, mad, and said he couldn't tell her. He tried to grab my phone from me. So, this guy tried to grab me and I told him if he did it again, I'd send the video to his girlfriend right away. He backed off and started begging me not to tell anyone, promising it wouldn't happen again. I gave him a chance to confess to Mom about messing around with my girlfriend. I made it clear that Mom would find out eventually. I drove off, trying to calm down after getting a call from one of my bosses asking where I was. I didn't realize how much time had passed. I was in the car, but I lied and said I was on my way back. I had grabbed what I needed and told her I was heading to work. When I got there, she could tell something was up just by looking at me. I tried to brush off her concern, saying it was nothing and that I'd be fine for the meeting. But she didn't believe me and asked for an explanation. So I showed her the video on my phone. She watched quietly, realizing that not only was my fiancé cheating on me, but it was with my own dad, the last person I'd expect. Text, she always had my back and offered to help in any way she could. She recommended that I take a break, saying they'd manage the meeting without me and you'd get it if I needed a breather. But I turned her down, saying I just needed a moment. I figured the best move was to distract myself and crush this meeting I'd been prepping for. So I slapped on a fake smile, pretending everything was all good. My boss couldn't wrap their head around how I was feeling. I had to act tough, but I told her that I needed to feel in control of something because everything else in my life was falling apart. She offered me a place to stay in her husband's basement apartment. Do you think she's flirting with me? Nah, this lady is just a kind soul in her 60s, like a second mom to me. I thanked her and said I'd consider it if I felt sick. I really didn't want to go back to my flat. I was praying to God I wouldn't have to see her. Since my dad wasn't around, I kept checking my phone for any calls or texts from Shaw Clark or my mom, but there was nothing. I don't even remember the drive home, but when I got there, everything hit me and I cried in my car for a while before going upstairs. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch in the living room, looking like crap. As soon as she saw me, she tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. I told her she needed to grab her stuff and get out. That's what I said. Hey, so she told me she had plans for us, was about to marry me, and that she was waiting for me. Then she suddenly said sorry, apologized, and claimed it wasn't what I thought. But I was pretty convinced my dad was in her, unless he's built like Ken doll and she was just messing around. But I have my doubts. She started crying and said he forced himself on her. I doubt that. I asked how long this has been going on. She said not long. I was like, what's not long? I told her there's no way. Why even bother blessing me now? So, she's telling me this story about last Christmas when I passed out early from drinking too much and they kept partying in the basement, ended up hooking up on the couch. Then she said they both woke up the next day and acted like nothing happened until she moved in with me a few months ago. He invites her over, she says no at first, but he promises to spill the beans about their hookups. I called BS on that, but she still went. I told her to get lost, but she wouldn't budge. She really messed up. She got down on her knees and said she didn't mean to, she was sorry and she'd do anything. I said okay, I'll leave. Then she tried to hold on to me like I was a little kid. I tried to get away to pack my stuff, but she wouldn't let go. I ended up dragging her down the hallway to our bedroom. In the end, I ended up packing her stuff because I didn't want to leave my own place. I told her to get the hell out. I carried all her things to the hallway outside our apartment while she cried her eyes out, completely devastated. I tossed her bags in the hallway and pushed her off me. I told her if she didn't leave, I'd call the cops and share the video with everyone we knew. Then she got up and left. Later that night, I called my mom and she asked if I had seen my dad. I told her I did. She said she hadn't seen him all day and he was supposed to be home from work by now. I thought about not telling her and hoping my dad would, but then I realized my mom deserved the truth. I spilled everything and apologized. Sorry for spilling the beans over the phone, but I just couldn't hold it in. I ended up bawling like a baby to my mom. Turns out, my dad came back the next day and tried to play it off like he got wasted at his brother's place and passed out. But my mom knew the whole story and kicked him out of the house. We have no idea where he went, but I think he got fired from his job. Thanks for listening, I might come back with an update later. Man, what's the point of it all? Dude, can you believe it? My old man and I caught our girl playing tonsil hockey in our bedroom. Talk about a midlife crisis. Who in their right mind cheats on their son's girlfriend? That's some messed up dad jokes right there. And to top it off, my boss is a total sweetheart, offering me a place to crash and telling me to take some time off to heal. Nothing like going into a work meeting to mend a broken heart, right? So, I put on this fake smile and was like, hey guys, I'm back for a bit. I was debating not sending the video to anyone, but then I was just chilling in my apartment, thinking about all the people my so-called dad and ex ruined with their greed. They couldn't handle it, you know. It's a small town, so there were all these rumors about why my mom kicked Clark out. I couldn't deal with the drama anymore, and my mom was too nice to say anything. She just kept saying. I was out fishing when I saw a video that really hurt me, so I shared it with my family group chat and all my friends. I just wanted everyone we know to feel the pain my mom and I felt. I'll never forget walking in on him in bed with my girlfriend, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with and truly loved. Turns out, I didn't even know her, and I never really knew who Clark was. My whole life was a lie, and I didn't want my mom to have to cover for me. So, after I sent that video, I heard from Char's older sister Shay. She apologized a ton for what she did and said she was rooting for me because I had her back. She even mentioned that she still wants to be a part of my life. So, I decided to go for it and asked her out. We're actually meeting up for coffee next week. Turns out, she studied psychology in Edinburgh and now has her own clinic. But, that video seems to have really messed up Char's life. Her parents aren't even talking to her anymore. They stopped helping her with her schoolwork because they were covering the costs of her education. And now that they've stopped supporting her, she won't be going to law school. She's also crashing on a couch with a girl she met in a sorority. My dad is camping in a camper on some random guy's property outside of town. Anyway, I'm doing okay and excited to see Shay. You never know what the future holds, that's for sure. He sent the video like a bombshell to the unsuspecting residents of your small town. People in small towns thrive on drama, so watch out. Hey, why not hook them up a bit? Shaw's life is a hot mess, your dad's living in a trailer like some kind of woods hermit. And what about you? You had a crazy day with Shaw's sister Shay, you deserve some happiness. And it just so happens to be with your ex's sister, why not give it a shot? Cheers to fresh starts, coffee dates, and maybe a little revenge served up hot. Now on to the next story. Hillary's 28, her hubby Philip's 27, and they've been married for 3 years. They're living in. So basically, me and my partner in the US haven't had kids yet because we just started trying. I came across Philip's profile on Tinder and we hit it off chatting for a few weeks, bonding over common interests and jokes. Eventually, we decided to meet up in person and set up a date. I was super nervous when I walked into the restaurant because I hadn't been on a date in ages. I spotted Philip sitting at a table in the corner, and his friendly smile instantly calmed my nerves. We said hi, and used the weird menu options as conversation starters. Yo, we totally hit it off and had a blast. The vibe was chill and we talked about everything, from childhood memories to our fave movies to even online dating, no interruptions. As the night went on, I got to know Philip better. He's so laid back, friendly, and funny, it just clicked with me. We dug into the appetizers and with every glance we exchanged, there was this unspoken connection between us. When it was time to leave, I felt a little something in the air changed and I just knew I'd see him again. LOL. Philip and I were like, let's switch it up for our second date, no more boring dinner and movie stuff. Let's hit up an art gallery instead. Now, I'm not really big on art, but checking out some vibrant paintings and weird sculptures together seemed like a cool way to break the ice between us. As we strolled through the exhibits, the art sparked some deep conversations. It felt like the paintings were pushing us to open up and really get to know each other on a more meaningful level. I was totally hooked on Philip's take on art and life in general. It wasn't just about the colors and shapes on the walls, it was about sharing our opinions, dreams, and all those little quirks that make us who we are. With our voices lowered and serious looks, we found ourselves chatting about everything from childhood dreams to the weird and wonderful things that excite us. It was cool how a bunch of artworks could get us to open up in ways we hadn't on our first date. After taking it all in, we were ready to dive deeper into the we were feeling creative, so we kept the night going with a spontaneous trip to a local food truck. No fancy dinners, just some good street food. Going from the classy gallery to the chill vibe of the food truck was a nice change. We sat on a bench, sharing bites of our unique food choices and laughing just like we did in the gallery. What got me was how easily we went from one place to the next, not trying to show off or anything. Instead of being all fancy with art and fancy eating rules, it was really just about enjoying the experience together and having fun trying new things. I noticed that Philip and I not only liked the same stuff, but we also both loved beautiful and unique places. After dating for a bit, we figured why not move in together in our new place. Philip and I dove headfirst into living together. Figuring out bathroom schedules was a joke and the kitchen was a mix of our cooking styles. Me and my partner had to figure out how to share chores together. It wasn't always easy, we had our fair share of arguments, but every disagreement was a chance for us to learn and get closer. I'll never forget our lazy Sunday mornings with breakfast in bed and quiet nights on the couch. Those simple moments brought us comfort and made our bond even stronger. Man, it was so nice being with Philip at the beach. He hit me with a question out of nowhere, but it ended up being a really special moment. We were at this quiet beach that we both love and have a lot of good memories at. The day started off feeling like something was up, haha. As we walked along the beach, the sound of the waves was so calming. I could tell Philip was nervous but also really excited. When the sun started setting, we ended up with candles and blankets, pretty romantic, right? That's when Philip started opening up about his feelings. Chatting about all the amazing stuff we've been through, his words were a mix of being real and honest, showing us facing life's obstacles together. Then, with a cheeky look in his eye, Philip got down on one knee, pulled out a little box, and opened it to show a sparkling ring. Time seemed to stand still as he asked the big question, and I felt a rush of emotions like joy, thrill, and the certainty that this was the start of something great. The proposal was simple but special. Me and Philip, we didn't need no fancy setup. It was just him picking me for the long haul, and I got all emotional with happy tears in my eyes. I said yes, gave Phil a hug, sealing the deal on our future together. Then we just sat there, watching the stars appear in the sky. I remember meeting Philip's parents for the first time. It felt like a big deal, a mix of excitement and nerves had me wondering how it would all go down. We decided to chill at Philip's family home, a comfy and cozy place. With memories and the comforting smell of amazing food, I was a bit nervous as I walked up to the front door, even though Philip said his parents were cool. I had butterflies in my stomach, but as soon as the door opened, his mom and dad gave me big hugs that made me feel right at home. The house was filled with family photos and the smell of delicious home-cooked food wafted through the air. Philip's parents were great hosts, making the vibe chill and perfect. So, we were just chilling around the dining table, munching on some homemade goodies and chatting about our backgrounds, our interests, and all the stuff we've been through. Philip's parents were also there, sharing some stories from his childhood. It was cool because I got to see how they all interacted, catching onto their inside jokes and seeing how much they care for each other. Philip made it clear that family is a big deal to him, and getting a glimpse into their world was pretty awesome. The night just got better and better. Me and Philip's folks totally hit it off, we had similar values and respected each other's love for the amazing guy we all adore. Any worries I had about impressing them disappeared as we got deep into talks about life, love, and what's to come. When it was time to go, I couldn't help but feel grateful for their warm hospitality. It wasn't just about meeting them, it was like getting a taste of Philip's history and feeling even closer to him. From the very beginning, our wedding planning journey was a roller coaster of excitement, dreams, and lots of stress. We were pumped about creating our perfect day, but dealing with unexpected issues really put our love and patience to the test. We started off super stoked about our dream wedding, chatting late into the night about themes, venues, and who we wanted to invite. Our friends and family were all about it, making the early stages seem like a breeze. But as we got deeper into the planning process, the pressure started to mount. Picking a venue felt like solving a puzzle. So we had some disagreements about our ideas and then our families had their own expectations, which made things even more complicated. We had to figure out a compromise that worked for everyone, which wasn't easy. And then money became an issue when we realized how expensive weddings can be. We had to prioritize and decide how many people to invite, and find a balance between making it fancy and keeping it low-key. It was a struggle to narrow down the guest list, and it was tough to find the right mix of big party vibes and intimate feel. We had to make some tough calls that really pulled at our heartstrings. Unexpected stuff came up like vendors trippin', family drama, and trying to please everyone. All that mess put a strain on our partnership, making us work together and lean on each other. Then came all the nitty-gritty stuff like dress fittings, pickin' flowers, and tastin' food. And on top of that, we had to balance work, family, and gettin' ready for the wedding. It was a lot to handle, but in the middle of all that madness, man, our wedding was wild. There were some real awesome moments. We were writing our vows, picturing our first dance, and thinking about all the memories we'd make together. Our friends and family were there for us every step of the way, keeping us grounded. Our wedding day was a roller coaster of emotions, laughter, and heartfelt moments that made our love story come alive. From getting ready with my bridesmaids in the morning to partying late into the night, each part of the day added a new piece to our story. The morning started off with a mix of excitement and jitters. As we got ready, there was a relaxed vibe with lots of laughs and sharing stories that put us in a good mood. The air was filled with the scent of flowers, adding to the anticipation of the day coming together perfectly. The venue was decked out in our favorite colors and personal touches, showcasing our journey. Walking down the aisle felt like the symbolic start of our new life together, akin to the journey we were embarking on. Our loved ones began to gather, creating a sense of joy and celebration. The wedding had such a warm and loving vibe. It was a real emotional roller coaster. Saying our vows and exchanging rings felt like time stood still. The words we chose were full of sincerity and created a special moment where our commitment shined. We were surrounded by our family and friends who gave us love and support. The party afterwards was a breeze, with music echoing through the reception hall, everyone laughing and toasting. Our first dance as a married couple, along with the heartfelt speeches, really added to the day. The food made with love was amazing, not just for our taste buds but also for our hearts. We took a moment during the party to really appreciate everything that led us here, the tough times, the amazing people we met. The dance floor became our own little world, surrounded by happy faces who had been there through it all. As the night went on, you could feel a sense of accomplishment and the beginning of something new. The shared laughter, happy tears, and good vibes. Big hugs helped bring our wedding day together. It was a huge love fest. We looked back on all the moments that led us to this point, with the promise of many more memories to come. After all the wedding craziness, our honeymoon felt like a dream. We picked a chill spot, a tropical island with beaches and jungle for some relaxation, adventure, and alone time as a newly married couple. Getting there was so exciting, we couldn't wait to hop on that plane and escape to our own little paradise. Arriving at the resort was like stepping into a dream. Man, hitting the jackpot felt like being surrounded by flowers and hearing the waves crash, creating this fancy vibe. Our room had the sickest view of the blue waves, setting the perfect scene for our chill island getaway. Days were all about kicking back and exploring. Mornings were for lounging on the beach, drinking cocktails, and enjoying the freedom of no schedules. Afternoons were spent snorkeling, finding cool spots, and soaking in the local vibes. Evenings were all about us, with romantic dinners. Chillin' under the stars, grubbin' on the island's tasty food, crackin' up together, sneakily checkin' each other out, and just enjoyin' some peaceful moments under the moon. We made memories that will stick with us forever. One highlight was a dope sunset cruise. As the sun went down, the sky turned into a crazy mix of colors, and driftin' along the shore together felt like our own special little moment of magic. Our honeymoon was a chance to really connect and bond. Those long walks on the beach turned into deep talks where we shared our dreams and plans. With no boring daily routine to worry about, we were able to truly be in the moment. We had a great time hanging out together as the days went by. The cool people we met made our trip feel more real. Their stories from our outings and trips to the market helped us get a better feel for the area and its people. Leaving the island meant saying bye to our honeymoon, but the memories stuck with us. After our dreamy honeymoon, we had to face reality and go back home to start married life. Philip's making good money, and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom after a few years of being married. About 3 months ago, my girl Angela told me she said yes to her man's proposal. She was so freaking happy and excited to spill all the deets about their upcoming wedding. Angela was a total rock during my own wedding, so of course she asked me to be her bridesmaid. I couldn't wait to pay back the favor and stand by her side. Being a bridesmaid was a wild ride, from helping with wedding stuff, trying on dresses, and planning the bachelorette party. The day was full of memories we all shared and the bond we had built up over the years. But when it came to Angela's bachelorette party, that's when things got crazy. Angela was always the life of the party, bringing laughter and positive vibes to every get-together. So it wasn't a shock when she suggested hitting up a bar for a wild night out. I was totally down for Angela's plan, especially since being married to Philip meant my nights out were limited. My clubbing days are over. I love my husband, but he's not into partying like me. So when the idea of going clubbing again came up, I was really excited. I promised myself to take it easy, not drink too much, and just enjoy the vibe. Of course, I didn't mention anything to Philip about going to the club. I knew he would probably say no, so I just told him we were having a girls' night for Angela's bachelorette instead. I didn't ask too many questions, which worked perfectly for my little plan. When we got to the club, my brilliant idea of not drinking too much went out the window pretty quickly. I tried to keep it chill, just enjoying the good times with my friends. It felt awesome to be back in the club scene after being away for so long, even though some things were new to me. But you know how it is, my friends started pushing me to have more drinks after a little while. They said it was a celebration and they wanted me to join in the fun while still staying sober. Man, I told myself not to do anything stupid, but I ended up giving in and started drinking more. You know how it goes, one drink turned into another, and before I knew it, I was having a great time feeling all the good vibes. I just kept sipping and ended up going a bit overboard. Next thing I knew, I was doing some really crazy stuff with my friends. We were all deep into the drunken shenanigans, daring each other to do insane stunts. It was like, go tackle that guy, or why not ask that dude for his number? It was one of those nights. Back in the day, my friends dared me to go up to a random guy and dance with him. I figured, why not? It seemed harmless at first, just a little dancing. But it turned out to be way more than I bargained for. Things escalated quickly, and I found myself grinding on this guy, which made the situation even worse. My friends egged me on as I got handsy, kissed, twerked, and grinded on this random dude. I kept it up for a while, dancing with different guys all night until I got bored and moved on. The next morning, I woke up with a killer headache. My head was pounding even though I was hungover. The memories of last night came flooding back and I was scared to tell Philip what was on my mind. But then I thought about it, I had already lied about the girls' night out and I didn't really do anything too crazy with that guy. So, I decided it wasn't worth confessing. Turns out, I wasn't the only one having doubts. I talked it out with the other girls and we came to an agreement. What happens at the club stays at the club, we won't spill to anyone else. Fast forward to Angela's wedding and it was all a dream. The whole event was amazing, we had a blast. The food was top-notch, the vibe was just right, it was one hell of a party. A few weeks later, back to our busy lives, the girls and I weren't hanging out as much as we should have been. But we had an adventure planned for next week to look forward to. So, I was at home when Philip came over, acting all annoyed and distant. I thought maybe someone at the grocery store had pissed him off, so I didn't pay it much mind at first. But as the days went on and Philip kept up his standoffish behavior, it started to really bug me. He was being all chill and avoiding eye contact for like 3 days straight, and I couldn't help but wonder what I had done to make him act like that. Eventually, I decided enough was enough and I needed to confront him about it. When I finally mustered up the courage to ask Philip what was up, I did everything I could to piss him off, but he just flat out denied it. With his cold attitude, it was clear he was lying. I pushed him again, but all he did was laugh it off. My frustration was building, so I told him to cut the crap and just spit it out. That's when he dropped a bombshell. He didn't get how he was supposed to smile at me while everyone in town was calling me a slut. Our town is one of those tiny, tight-knit villages where everyone knows everyone and gossip spreads like crazy. Philip mentioned that people in town were. They were calling me names, which really messed with my head. I was racking my brain trying to figure out what could have caused all these accusations. The only thing I could think of was the incident at the club. It was strange how details from a place so far away ended up reaching people in our town. That's one downside of living in a small town, gossip spreads like wildfire. Philip didn't bother to fact-check the stories going around town. My guilty expression gave me away, and I tried to explain myself. I swear I didn't do anything wrong and I even asked him what the hell everyone was gossiping about. Philip was not just pissed off, but he was also freaking out more than usual. He said people in the town were talking shit about me because a video of me at the strip club with some girls got out, and no one knew who leaked it. I was about to break down in tears. I finally realized I messed up big time. I knew Philip might never forgive me because not only did I lie about what me and the girls were up to that night, but I also cheated on him. I was desperately trying to explain myself. I kept telling myself that I didn't sleep with the guy or go all the way, but Philip wasn't buying it. He insisted that just grinding on the person was enough to count as cheating. I pleaded with him, saying I was drunk and would never have done that if I was sober. Philip stopped pretending to be okay. I finally realized that the silent treatment he gave me for the past 3 days was his way of waiting for me to ask so he could unload his frustration. He didn't hold back, he told me to get out of the house and... So, he straight up said we were done, called me a slut, and basically agreed with the gossip in town. I was in tears, kept saying sorry over and over, but he wasn't having it. I grabbed my stuff and left, crying the whole way. Ended up crashing at my parents' place for a bit. They were clearly disappointed. Nothing changed when Philip's folks found out about the mess. I felt real bad about it, especially seeing how my own parents decided to talk to Philip even though he was still mad. They tried to chat with him, and after a bit, Philip, who was being difficult at first, finally agreed to listen once he cooled off. But despite my parents' best efforts, Philip said forgiving was out of the question. He told my folks he was gonna get a divorce, cause he was too embarrassed and ashamed after seeing a video of his wife with someone else. Man, that shit's gonna stick with him forever, he ain't gonna forget it. Even though my parents suggested we go to couples therapy, Philip was adamant that there was no way to fix things and he had no interest in making up. I was crying my eyes out and practically begging on my knees, but Philip wasn't budging. He stuck to his guns and told me it was over between us. It's pretty messed up, but knowing I'm not the only one going through this kind of shit makes me feel a little better. Angela, who just got married, is going through some stuff too. Man, that leaked video really messed things up, causing a chain reaction of problems in relationships. Some couples are about to call it quits, while others are trying to work things out with counseling. And then there's me. Philip didn't hold back at all. He cleaned out our bank account, taking almost everything because he was the breadwinner and I was a stay-at-home mom. Now I'm left with next to nothing, just waiting for those divorce papers he said he would send. Dealing with Philip's parents has been a whole other headache. It's been tough reaching out, but you can feel their disappointment. The gossip in this town has been relentless, with snide remarks coming at me from all sides. Once the divorce is done, I'm really thinking about getting out of here and starting fresh. Sharing my story as a way to find some peace amidst the chaos. If anyone's thinking about cheating, I hope they read this and make the smart choice to steer clear. Thanks for listening. I never thought I'd be turning to Reddit for advice, but here we are. Not sure what to do next, honestly. So, my old man caught me red-handed with my side piece and decided to play me at my own game on my phone. Vikram, my husband, is a funny 40-year-old who thinks he's the king of the castle. He's a successful dude who likes to be in control of everything. So, when he found out I was stepping out on him, he came up with a plan to teach me a lesson. My husband Akil and I, both 32, have been hitched for a good 10 years now. We've got a couple of rugrats together, a 5-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy. I know folks are gonna talk smack about me for cheating on my men, but hey, mistakes happen. Hey, so I have a husband and all, but honestly, I've never really felt truly happy in my marriage. You know, marriage is supposed to make you feel all complete and content, but with my husband, I just never got those vibes. Happiness is like this foreign concept for me, you know. The only time I felt somewhat whole was when I had my 2 kids, they kind of filled a void in my life. But even that wasn't enough, man. When my kids go off to school, I'm just left feeling empty all over again. And to top it off, my husband. My husband doesn't even realize he's a total perfectionist who's all about being the best and making sure he's making 6 figures. I needed more for myself, so I had to go find it elsewhere. It was tough and I doubted myself, but I knew I had to do it. What I didn't expect were the consequences. I'm a mixed woman from Mumbai, India. My mom's from Canada and my dad's from India. Growing up with 2 different backgrounds was hard for me. On one side, I had my strict dad limiting everything I did, and on the other side, I had my mom is so strict, she won't let me do anything just because of my dad. I grew up in a messed up family with no love or attention. I used to act out just to see if my mom would show she cared, but she never did. And my dad, he barely even noticed me. When I was old enough to get hitched, my dad tried to set me up with someone I didn't want. All I wanted was to go to college far away from my folks, have my own life, and find love with someone I actually liked. None of those desires came true. I was supposed to do exactly what my parents wanted, couldn't escape or they'd find me. My dad worked at the airport, so he had connections. How could I sneak onto a plane without being noticed? I was desperate to leave, but I wasn't dumb. I turned to my mom for help, but she said she couldn't do anything. She wasn't willing to stand up for me, the one time I really needed her to fight my dad. She turned her back on me and walked away. Man, let me tell you about the first time I met Vikram and his fam. It was straight up depressing. I knew I was getting into an arranged marriage, but I thought at least my future hubby would be nice to me. But nope, Vikram was cold as ice. He didn't even try to win me over. I had to take all these fancy etiquette classes and dress to the nines just to get noticed. And to top it off, our marriage was basically sealed after just 2 more meetings. I had zero say in any of it, couldn't even pick out my own outfit. It was rough, man. On my wedding day, the guy I was supposed to marry had never even talked to me before. I felt overwhelmed because I started to think that maybe I didn't deserve to be happy. I always thought that getting married would make up for all the happiness I missed out on as a kid. Vikram was good-looking and loaded, but none of that really mattered to me. I was more interested in his true self. I wanted to have a deep emotional connection with my husband. But Vikram didn't seem ready for that. On our wedding day, my parents gave me a warning not to go through with it. They were so scared I'd back out and ruin their day. I thought they'd want to hug me and say they'd miss me, even if it was fake. But nope, all I got was warnings about being a proper wife. Turns out, they decided Vikram and I were moving to Australia after the wedding. I only found out after saying, I do. No one mentioned it before. Maybe they. I didn't think it mattered because I knew my opinion wouldn't count anyway. My wedding was a disaster, especially my wedding night. I was a virgin, a super shy one at that. I hadn't even kissed a boy before. I had no idea what to expect that night, so I was a nervous wreck. When Vikram and I finally got to our hotel room, he just turned off the lights and went to sleep. I didn't feel relieved, I felt trapped. Not because he didn't make a move on me, but because I was clueless about sex at that time. What really got to me was that the guy I married couldn't even hold a decent conversation with me. I tried chatting with him on our way to the hotel that night, but I could tell his responses were forced and he wasn't interested at all. He didn't even say goodnight before crashing on the bed and passing out. As someone who was already messed up, I felt like I made the dumbest choice of my life by marrying a total stranger. And you know what the worst part was? It wasn't even my choice to begin with, my parents picked him for me. Me and Vikram moved to Australia. I tried to start a new life there even though I was pretty bummed about the husband I ended up with. I was determined to make our marriage work, so I tried talking to him, cracking jokes, and even bothering him while he was working at his desk. After a while, he started to open up to me a bit. By that, I mean he would actually respond to my questions, laugh at my jokes, and lean into my touches. Eventually, we got friendly enough to start sleeping together. And that's how I ended up with my 2 kids. Man, me and Vikram's kids are amazing. We used to hook up at least 3 times a week, sometimes more if we were feeling it. We'd also just shoot the breeze and joke around, but that's where it ended. Physically and mentally, he wasn't a stranger anymore, but emotionally, he was still distant. For months, I felt like I was being selfish for not feeling fulfilled. It seemed like he was trying, but I was the one left wanting more. I felt guilty for not being happy, a struggle I kept to myself for a long time. I started to resent myself because of it. I was just a housewife, sitting at home waiting for my husband to come back so I could feel important. But then my daughter and son were born and they brought so much joy into my life. They're 2 years apart but they act like twins. I love them with all my heart. They helped me forget about my problems for a bit, but once they started school, my loneliness came back. I would get lost in my sad thoughts for hours until they came back home. That's what I found the hardest to deal with. I was trying to figure out what love really was. I never had much love growing up, so I never really knew what it felt like or could tell when someone was showing me love. For a while, I thought my husband loved me and I loved him too. But one day, I realized that all we had was an agreement to be together, and that we were stuck with each other for life. So, I decided that we shouldn't make each other's lives difficult. That's when I made a big decision. 2 years ago, when my husband came back from work, I told him I wanted out. When I told him I wanted to go to college, he was totally caught off guard and didn't even believe me until I brought it up again 2 days later. At first, he tried to convince me not to go, saying the kids needed me at home. But I pointed out that the kids had school and extracurriculars. He argued that he made enough money to support us for life, so why bother with college? I stood my ground and said that college was important for me, not just for making money. After thinking it over, he finally came around. So, I had a bunch of phone calls with him, and yeah, he called my folks and his folks to get their blessing. Finally got the okay to start college. When I first stepped foot on campus, I felt so free and happy. I was already 30, but I didn't give a damn. Finally had something to look forward to every day. Met new people, had some good laughs. College felt like a place where I could do whatever I wanted. Then one day, this guy named Fred offered me a ride after class. I said no thanks, politely though. I already had a designated driver to take me home, but Fred just wouldn't take no for an answer. He got out of his car and practically begged me to let him give me a ride. I thought it was funny and kind of ridiculous, so I said no again and hopped in my designated car. Fred kept offering me a ride home for weeks, until finally I gave in and sent my car back. He was so happy, with a big smile on his face. We chatted on the way home, and it was nice to meet someone new. Fred drove me all the way home. In the weeks that followed, Vikram was hardly ever home before 9 p.m. so it was no big deal when, that night at 5 p.m., I left college. Fred and I hit it off and became friends after a month of hanging out. It felt nice to have someone to chat with and who actually cared about getting to know me. I could sense there was some chemistry between us, but I tried to ignore it because I was still married to Vikram. I really did try, but as a woman who had never experienced true love before, my willpower started to weaken. Me and Fred didn't have enough space in that car, so we kissed once. But after that, we kept on kissing, then moved on to tight hugs, and eventually started making out. On the 6th day, it finally happened. I was so shocked that I just froze for a long time. And you know what? It all went down in that car. That's when I realized I didn't love my husband, because I didn't feel any guilt or regret about what happened. I felt free and satisfied. I liked it so much that I wasn't afraid to do it again. It's not something I'm ashamed of, because I deserve it. You know, I deserve to be happy. Fred and I kept our secret thing going for another year. I told him I was married before we hooked up, but he didn't really seem to mind. He was cool with the sneaky times we spent together. We started smiling more and living with more purpose, all thanks to Fred. But then one day, everything fell apart. My regular driver showed up to pick me up, even though I told him not to because I usually went home with Fred. But the driver was insistent on taking me there. Fred invited me over that day and I didn't want to let him down, so I told my driver to go ahead without me and headed to Fred's place. My husband was out of town for work and my kids were at Vikram's sister's house, so I didn't have any other plans. Fred made us dinner, turned on some nice music, and it felt like I was in a fairy tale. Honestly, I didn't want it to end. I felt truly happy for the first time in a while, just soaking in the peace and joy. So, when I was hanging out with Fred, I knew deep down that what I was doing was messed up. But honestly, everything else in my life has been a mess too, so I decided to be selfish for once and do what I wanted. And let me tell you, I went for it. I ended up having a steamy night with a guy who wasn't my husband. The next morning, I woke up wearing Fred's t-shirt and feeling pretty parched, so I headed to the kitchen for some water. And then, out of nowhere, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, I was totally shocked to see Vikram standing there looking like he was ready to murder me. I was so shocked I couldn't even move or talk. I could tell he was furious by the look in his eyes that day, as he glared at me and pushed me aside. Fred ran downstairs to see what was happening, and that's when he ran into Vikram. Vikram beat Fred until he was bloody. I started screaming out of fear when I saw my designated driver and 2 cops at the door. I was in for the biggest shock of my life, and that's when it all started to make sense. I realized Vikram had noticed that I wasn't using my designated driver anymore, so I started watching myself more closely. He said he was going on a business trip, but he was actually just trying to follow me and catch me in the act. The driver followed Fred's car the night before and warned Vikram that the address was a setup. Vikram figured out I was cheating on him, so he set up a trap for Fred and me. Vikram always has to be in control, and I messed up by cheating, so he decided to catch me red-handed in his own way. I thought that was it, but Vikram ended up arresting both me and Fred. I know some of you are wondering who got arrested. Me and Fred got busted, not for cheating, but because the cops found cocaine in Fred's garden and car. So we ended up getting locked up for having illegal drugs. And of course, Vikram set us up. Fred had a heart condition that meant he couldn't smoke, so how did drugs magically appear? Vikram was right there to witness it all. We were stuck in jail for 3 days even after trying to explain. Luckily, Fred's friend bailed us out. This all happened 2 months ago, and then my spouse kicked me out and served me with divorce papers pretty much right away. That's all I'm worried about now. This is about my kids, they mean everything to me. I don't want Vikram to get full custody in court. What should I do? Should I try to get back with him for the sake of my kids? Please help me out. Update: it's been a year and I wanted to give an update since a lot of people have read my story. Fred and I are still together and living together. I'm still in college, trying to finish and start a career. Fred has been supportive and taking care of me. Vikram has been trying hard to get full custody of our kids. I had to pay up, but the court decided that the kids needed me around. Now we're co-parenting in a chill way and trying to keep things civil for the sake of our children. When my folks found out, they called to cut me off, but I didn't care. They weren't exactly the most loving parents to start with. The first few months after getting caught were rough, but I buckled down and fought my way out. My life isn't perfect, but for once, I put myself first. And that's all that matters. Listen up, y'all. I finally get what it means to truly care and love someone. I'd rather have a rich life with nothing than an empty one with everything. I may have lost my wealthy husband, but I gained peace and happiness, which is priceless. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe. And if you have a story of your own, don't be shy to share. Take care, y'all.